views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff and management of WWDB-TV.
Whether she's walking the red carpet or doing interviews, you'll find her with celebrities and all the latest news. She's here, she's there, she's everywhere, she's always on the go. So sit back, relax, and get ready, 'cause it's the Corey Taylor Talks Show.
What's so amazing about this man is he made it on his own, and it wasn't just because his father was who his father was. He actually did it on himself, and I think we can learn so much about this man. He has an incredible story, and I am so excited to have him on my show today. So, hi, Richard. How are you?
I'm wonderful, Corey. How are you?
I am so great. Like I said, I really think you're phenomenal. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So why don't we get right into it? Obviously, your father is Richard Pryor. So how was it growing up with him being your father, and what was your childhood like? Because I really think that kind of brought you into your whole career as it is now, and what really made your passion get going at such a young age.
Right. Well, as far as personally being the son of Richard Pryor, when I was younger, I looked at it, and I still do at times, I looked at it like any other father of a child. Like in my school, for instance, like if their dad was a painter or worked in a factory, I looked at it the same way because I knew nothing else but that. Right. So I never looked at it like everyone else did, like, oh, your dad's a celebrity or anything like that. Right. Until I got older, when I would go on the road with him and everything growing up, I would go on the road during the summers with him, and during holidays and things of that nature, I would go with him and introduce him on stage. That's when I realized who he was, that he was a performer, that he was an actor, you know, that he was a, you know, quote-unquote star. And that's when I first started realizing and understanding it, because, you know, with my life, I had two different lifestyles. You know, at home in Peoria, raised with my mother, and then going to my dad's was a totally different story. You know, as far as what things you saw and the way, the things you saw and the people that you met, and all those things were totally different. So it was kind of a clash there when I was younger a little bit, trying to get acquainted with both those things and how to level those things out. And I'm glad my mother was there to make sure she kept me grounded.
Oh, yeah, and I think that's so cool that you're close with your mother as well, and that I think that's probably good you were able to balance it out, because I can't even imagine what it was like. Now, I know it was only the summers, but to be living a tour life as a child is insanity, and I can't even imagine what it was really like.
A lot of hotels and a lot of cheeseburgers and french fries and Pepsi.
That part doesn't sound too bad. No, that's just so cool. And was it a crazy lifestyle for you? Was there any, like, insane stories you had with that? Or was it just kind of more normal? Did he kind of try and keep it more normal for you?
Well, I think there's a couple things. I know that my father, off stage and everything, he was very quiet. He was an introvert. You know, he talked very soft and everything, had a soft-spoken voice. So I saw that part of him. But the other part, when he was performing and around people that are in the industry, that was the things that were exciting to me, like, you know, meeting Billy D. Williams and meeting George Burns in a hotel and things of that nature, you know, the Eddie Murphys and the different people like that, that you would come across and meet, that you looked at, because I looked at those people like they were, you know, stars. You know, my dad to me wasn't a star, but those were stars, you know, seeing those kind of people, because I wasn't associated with them on a regular basis like that. So it was a really nice thing and everything as far as the people I saw. You know, hundreds of people that I've met in the industry and things, those were great things, a part of it. But also in that, you also saw the bad things with dealing with the drugs and all the things like that were pretty rampant during that time period.
Yeah. No, I bet that's really tough, especially for a kid. And like I said, that lifestyle for anyone, but especially as a child growing up in that. And your father was truly such an icon. and had so many people adore him. To this day, people love him and really look up to him, and he's a hero to so many people. So I really can't even begin to imagine what that was like. But you turned out amazing, and I really do want to get into your life, because you have overcame so many different challenges, and I mean, you joined the Navy, I believe, correct? I mean, you had this whole incredible life, and I really want to talk a little bit about it. Yeah, I was reading up about you. I was like, oh my goodness, I think he's done more than anyone I've ever seen before in my life.
Yeah, it's crazy because I even look back as far as like jobs I've had, and I noticed that most of the jobs I've had, I would work maybe 2 years at that job and go to something else.
Yeah.
And it was kind of weird. I don't know if it was because of the fact that I've always wanted to perform, and maybe that's a part of what I had to do in order to get to the point where I was stable enough to stick with something, because this is the longest thing I've ever stuck with in my life, is performing. So I think it was a thing like, you know, just going through the motions of so many different things is trying to find my fit in life through all the stuff and the obstacles that I went through, to be able to be in the place where you finally find peace with everything and be happy and know what you're doing and content with everything that you're doing.
Yeah. Now, yeah, let's talk a little bit about that, because, like you said, you've done so many different jobs, and you had so many different career paths. So let's talk a little about that. What did you start off? Were you young when you joined the Navy, and then how did you get out of that? And I know you also did drag. I mean, you've done so much stuff. So let's get straight into it.
Yeah, the military wasn't my first job. It was the first thing I committed to. Like, I'm going to really do this, because prior to that, in high school, I actually worked several jobs during high school. You know, like a fast food place, and then I worked in a nursing home as well. And then I went to California, worked on one of my father's films as a production assistant called Bust and Lose. And then after that time, it was like, I need to go in the military. Maybe that'll straighten me up and it'll keep me level-headed, because I tried the college and it wasn't good for me. I'd spend most of the time watching soap operas in the student center. So it was like, let me try to do something that's going to benefit me and make me a man that I should be. Right. But little did I know that once I got into the military, the things that I probably were like trying to steer away from were presented to me in the military. So all those things, whether it was drugs and the lifestyles and all those things that I was trying to run from, came out during that military period.
Interesting. And so how was that introduced to you, and did you kind of fall into that, or is that kind of why you left, or what? How did you handle that situation?
Well, it was a thing where, when you're young, you're from a smaller area like Peoria, Illinois. It's a city, but it's not a huge city. And I think going to in the military, being where I was at, and once I get to my ship, you got like 5,000 people on a ship, 5,000 guys on a ship, and then you have things that you normally didn't see, that you thought you would never see in the military, as far as the sexual tone of things and all that stuff that was prevalent in the military. And it was like, I could totally understand that it was called Don't Ask, Don't Tell during that time period. It was like, just don't ask. And you just saw it. It was rampant, and it was all over the place. So when you're a person that at the time, when you're confused and not understanding who you are as a person and wanting to be somebody maybe that you're not, or try to fit in and all those things, you're very easy to fall into those things as far as that lifestyle, and then actually the drugs as well. Because I did, that's when I first started doing the drugs, was in the military. Right. It was like presented to me. We would go to different ports and find out where we could find the weed at, find out where we could find coke at. Those are things that you actually look for, and we would seek out, my buddies and I, during those time periods. So it was very easy to fall into that, especially when you had an addictive personality, and it was easy to go into those things. And then, you look years later and you're like, oh, whoa, where have I gone? The time has passed me. I've done all this during these times,
Yeah, but you did finally find your way out of that and everything, correct?
Yeah, it was a long, long process of me over the years. Got married and was in the ministry and all those things during that period. So those things were fine with me. But then after that, it was a thing of, I think a thing of comfort and finding out who you are and being comfortable with who you are and knowing who you are. When you're trying to find those things out, you try to do certain things just to cope with the pain and cope with the things that you've gone through, the strife that you've gone through, the stress, being used, being abused, and all those things add into who you are as a person. But it takes you knowing who you are and finally loving yourself and knowing yourself as a person to know that, hey, I don't have to hold on to this anymore. I can let this go. I want to be a better person for myself, first of all. And then for my son and my grandchildren, I want to be a better person. So how do I do that? What do I have to do to attain that? And that's where I started my, just even recently, last couple of years, starting my spiritual journey again and everything with God, because that gives me strength.
Yeah. And is that kind of what your book is about? Is that how you got into writing your book?
Yeah, it's a thing of telling my story, but I want people who read it to identify with the person that they're reading about. Yeah. I want them to know that, if you've gone through something, if you're dealing with something, you're dealing with an addiction or something like that that's holding you and is gripping you down, that you don't have to stay in that position, that there is a way out. You can work on you yourself, self-love and all those things. Work on those things. Those things make you stronger. And then when you're stronger, you're able to turn around and close the door on some of those things that don't need to be opened and close those things. I want to show people how you can better yourself and be better in life and be fulfilled for yourself and not for anybody else but for yourself.
Right. And kind of speaking of which, I know, like you said, you obviously were involved in like the arts community and everything from a very young age, and then you went off and you tried all different paths, but you really found that your true loves are acting and singing. So, and that's what you're pursuing to this day. So, how did you find your way back to that?
I think it was I had an event that was here in New York City where I live now. They were recognizing my father, and they flew me from Illinois to come out to New York to be a part of this event. And I was there, and they said, well, will you do some comedy? And I'm like, no, but I'll sing something. Mm-hmm. So I sang a song, and what happened was that the reaction from the audience from when I sang was like overwhelming to me, positive. And I was like, oh, I can sing. I really can sing, because when I'm in my hometown, you didn't get recognized for things that you did if you were good at it. I didn't know if it was because of who my father was or because people didn't think that I had the talent. Right. But when I came to New York and was able to do that, and knowing how New York is with a crowd, knowing that they're going to let you know if you're good or bad. They're going to really tell you without a doubt. And that right there opened the door for me to get the confidence to say, I'm going to do this. So I moved back to New York City with $300 in my pocket. I borrowed from my sister, Rain, $300 to my name, and came here, and I haven't left. And it was like, I'm determined to do it. I'm not going to let anything stop me, no matter what. If I have to sleep on a cot in this empty theater, I'll do that, and which I did. Those kind of things I did because I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew it gave me life, and it gave me passion, and it made me feel good.
Yeah, so you really just followed your heart then.
Yes, definitely, without a doubt.
Yeah, and I mean, and very successfully as well. And I just have to say, what I admire so much about you is obviously your father was who he was, but you didn't use his name to get where you are. You actually did it on your own, and I think that's just so cool that a lot of people really can't say that, but you did it all on your own, and I think you have to be so proud of that. Like, do you really recognize how cool that is?
Yeah, I didn't. I kind of do now because I worked hard, and and I still work hard, and I've struggled, and I've gone without not having, and because I wanted to do it, and I wanted to pursue it, and I wanted to make it, and I wanted to make it on my own terms. That's one of the reasons why I went. And this time about, I went into singing and acting more so than comedy, because I knew that wasn't my niche. I knew that would be looked at like, oh, that's what his dad does. Right. So that's why I wanted to go my own direction and find my own way. Little did I know, after I started doing it and when nominated for different things for my cabaret and all those things, that my dad actually sang as well.
Oh. And
we found some recording of it, and it's astounding how similar our voices are as far as singing voices. And then I remember my mother telling me years ago that he said whenever he was no longer funny, he would turn to singing. And it was kind of weird how I, picked that up and just ran with it because I have a passion for it, just performing on the stage in front of people, period. And I think it's in my DNA.
Yeah, I was going to say it really sounds like it's just truly in your genes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely.
That's so cool. So even without realizing it, you two are so similar. And I have to say, too, and I think everyone says this about you. I'm sure you hear it all the time. You look just like your father, and you sound a lot like him as well.
Yeah, I hear the sound like him more and more. The older I get, I hear that more and more. You sound just like him. I don't hear it myself, but it's like, it's because I wouldn't. I don't like listening to myself, but it's like
we all
one
don't,
of those things that, it's just a part of who you are,
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's so cool. And so obviously you love acting and singing. Do you have any albums, or are you planning on releasing any singles or albums or anything that people can look forward to?
Well, that's interesting you ask that, because there's a couple things I'm actually working on. One thing is actually I want to work on some music more as far as doing my own music instead of just singing covers, which I've always done and I love doing. But maybe putting my twist on some of the older songs and bringing those back, doing that. Also working on my book. I want to create a one-man show based off my book as well.
Oh,
so and try to fit that in the show. So those are things where I would play all the characters in the book. And so I'm going to see how that works and how we can work that out in order to make it flow. And so I can, whether I'm changing costumes or I'm just doing it all on stage, and how we're going to work that out. So that's the main thing I'm working on now.
Wow, that would be very interesting. I think that's a really cool and unique concept. So you're planning on doing it as like a theater show, or you even maybe a movie, or
a theater show or a film, either one. So either one or both.
Yeah.
I'm not limiting myself as far as anything goes. I just want to perform and be in front of people and to tell my story.
Yeah. No, I think that's so cool. I think that's a very unique concept. I think people would be very interested in that for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, and what type of music is your favorite, and acting as well? Like, do you like theater acting more, or film acting, or both, or what's your preference?
I love being on stage because you never know what's going to happen. That's one thing I love about that. If you forget your lines, you have to be quick enough to pick something up, to put in there so you don't have that dead space. Finding something to fill in that thing until you get back to where you're supposed to be. That's what I love about stage and singing on stage. I love singing jazz and R&B. I really love that. A couple of show tunes here and there,
Yeah.
But I love being on film as well. The only thing about film that the finished product is finding the right piece of thing that you can do, the right type of work that you can actually do, finding that right role, that great role.
Yeah. No, I understand you. I hear you out completely. And I know you said you don't really want to, and you never had an interest with it, but do you think one day you might ever try stand-up and get into that, or is that just not really your thing, or have you even tried it before?
No, I actually tried stand-up years and years ago. I tried it, and it was extremely difficult because the people, if I wasn't like my dad, you're not funny, or if I was like my dad telling similar stories because we had like the same background,
right.
I was trying to mimic him.
Gotcha.
So there was no win situation for me at all there. So that's one reason why I stepped back from it. I love doing comedy on stage, and as far as a character or something like that, or if I'm doing a cabaret show, doing comedy, but just to stand up and do stand-up, I don't think that's my niche.
No, I understand, and I give it so I think comedians are amazing because I don't even think people really realize how difficult it is. And then especially for you, like you said, it's kind of a no-win situation. People won't give you any credit because if you're not like him, they're tough on you. And if you are like him, they just think you're copying him. And that's a really bad situation for you. And it's tough enough as it is.
Yes, definitely, most definitely.
And I gotta say too, with your acting as well, I saw you. I saw your video you posted where you were playing the homeless man. That was great. You did an excellent job with that.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. That was fun playing that though. The only thing that was horrible about it was that it was like extremely hot. It was like in the 90s.
Oh.
And I'm wearing all this clothing, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is miserable. But it helped with the character, though. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And what was that for, actually?
It was a film. It was a short film that's actually been nominated for some things. It just released. It's called Meditation, and I play a drunkard. The drunkard in the thing, and it's basically about us. 3 other individuals and the main character and myself, and it's about him teaching us how to find ourselves, how to become the real us, and not using, like with me being the drunkard, not using that alcohol as a vice for me, and for the other kids, and then for them not using violence for a vice for them to deal with what they're going through in life, and to meditate on it, and to seek change in your life and everything. So that's what that was about. It's called Meditation.
That sounds great. That's cool. And it's nominated as well, so you know it's good. That's great.
Yeah. It's doing a lot of film festivals and everything here right now.
That's awesome. I'm very glad about that. And I do want to talk a little bit more about your book as well, In a Prior Life, which is a great title as well.
Thank you.
That was right. That was a clever little twist. I liked it. But let's talk a little bit more about that. What can people really expect from it? And I, like I said again, I think making it into either a show or a movie. But what can people expect from it, and where can people learn from it, really?
Well, I think people can expect from it. Well, they'll find out once they read it. Is that it's a story of my life. It is not necessarily just focusing on my father, which it isn't. He's a part of my life, so he's not the major part as far as my life. Right. It's showing, my relationships with my parents, siblings, other relatives in my life, how I grew up, the struggles I've went through, the mistakes I've made, the horrendous things I've done in life. Certain ways I've treated people that they weren't entitled to be treated that way. Things I've done that were bad, and they're just human. Things that we do as humans. So many times when people write things or say things about their life, they leave out the dirty stuff and the gritty stuff and the things that aren't so pleasant. I didn't want to have that kind of book. I didn't want to be a book like Woe Is Me. I wanted to be a book about, I messed up and did some things that were wrong. Oh, I definitely did that was wrong. But I also did some things that were right. And also showing how you can come out of those things and how you can deal with certain things in your life that you never thought that you could deal with, never thought that would change anything in your life. Through the drugs, the alcohol, through the sex, and the people I slept with, all those things brought me to where I am today. And I want somebody to be able to read that, and I'd be able to identify with that book so that they can say, hey, I can do this, I can do that. And that they can seek change. That's what I want, to be a thing for change.
I think that's really great, and I think people can learn so much from it. And people can relate, too, because like you said, unfortunately, especially I think in today's age with social media and everything, people just try to make their lives look great and perfect and try to make it look like they never struggled. But for you to be so honest and to really show people, you had a really hard start. Literally since you were a baby, when you were born, you were so small. They had to wait till you were 5 pounds, and they had to your parents had to buy doll socks to fit on your feet. So literally from the beginning, you had such a tough life, but you overcame everything, and you really followed your heart. And I think that's so cool that you were able to be so honest about it.
Yeah, thank you very much. It took some work and everything to do that, but it took until now until I could actually do that. You know, 10 years ago, I couldn't do it because I've tried to write my book 2 other times, and I had to stop. But it was just the right time now, and I'm at peace with myself, and I'm comfortable with myself now that where I could write that, and where I could write it and face those things that I went through and did. I could face those things. I could face the pain, and it not crush me and not kill me. That it helped me survive.
Yes, absolutely. And I think people can really look up to that and relate to that. And I think that's just so special. And this book is just going to be phenomenal. Or it is phenomenal. I know people are just going to love it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and then interpreting it and actually putting it out in like we said, either a movie or theater or however. When can people look for that? Are you working on it currently, or is there any plans as of right now with it?
Well, I'm in like preparation now, dealing with it as far as going through what kind of things I can actually talk about, what kind of things I wanted to develop as far as those things. So we're in the developing stages now, which is going to take some time to develop it to make sure it's the right thing. And then after that time, then you're doing the readings for it to make sure those glitches are out and the things are right. And then figure out how we're going to do this. We're going to just do it in New York. Am I going to go back to my hometown area and do this? Am I going to go on the road first to do this before I want to come to New York to perform it? So all those things come into play as far as me telling my one-man show is concerned regarding the book.
Yeah, well, I think going on the road would be a very smart idea too, and if you ever did, I think Vegas would be a great place to go too. I think that'd be very well. Yeah. No, and I just think I think that's just such a cool thing. And you said you'd be playing all the characters, is what you're playing?
Yes. Yeah, it'd be a one-man show. I'd be playing the characters. I've already played my great-grandmother once in a play. I did a play about my life called Stirred Crazy. Oh, wow. And I portrayed her and myself. So it's something I know I can do, but it'll be good to see how this transpires as far as adding other elements and other levels to this. It's going to be interesting to see how it comes out.
Oh, I think it'd be great, and I to do a one-man show, I can't imagine how difficult it would be, but I think it'd be so worth it, and I think people would love it.
Oh, awesome! Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, and I really, like I said, you're just such a great guy, and you're so honest, and you have done so much. So I think people can learn so much from you. What advice do you really have for people that are trying to make it or going through some really tough times in their life right now and are trying to make it? What advice do you have for them?
You have to hold on to hope. Yeah. You can't give up no matter what anyone tells you, no matter what obstacles are in your way. You have to know how to stand up, stand strong, go through those things, go around them, whatever you have to do to continue on your journey. Don't let anything stop you. Don't let anyone stop you. No matter what people say, how they dictate who you are and what you can achieve. Speak positive things into your life, into your existence. Speak that I'm going to do this, I'm going to achieve this, and go for it and keep going. Because we get so blindsided when people tell us this, and oh, you can't do this. Because I remember one time a guy told me, oh, you'd never make it singing because you're too old. But I still do it. I stick with it and keep going regardless. And you just have to do that. You have to know that and have that mindset regardless of what people say and no matter how many doors close in your face. You're doing it. If you're doing it for love. You should do because you love it that much. So it's not a thing about being wealthy and super rich. It's doing what you love to do. Having that job that you love to go to and you love waking up to that and going to that job, that's what it's about.
Yeah, I think that's some excellent, solid piece of advice, and like I really think you demonstrate that with your whole life, and you've overcame so much, and you're following your heart, and you're being very successful, and the book is awesome. I'm sure people who haven't read it already and are listening to the show right now, I'm sure they're rushing to buy it as quickly as possible, and with the show as well, I'm so excited for that too. I hope we get to see it soon because I think that will be a hit, and it already sounds great, so I can't even imagine what it's actually going to be like.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate that, Corey.
Oh, absolutely. And I really want to go over everything again. Where can people buy your book? Where can people keep up to date with you? Because I'm sure everyone really wants to.
Well, I know I can be. You can reach me at innerpryorlife.com. That will have information
cool.
as far as like things I've done, things I'm getting ready to do. Also, it gives you links to where to purchase my books. My book can be purchased at Amazon or at bearmanormedia.com, which is the publisher. I think there's some other outlets that are carrying them. I'm not really sure online who they exactly are, but I know you can actually get those Kindle, hardback, or paperback book you can do. I know that definitely from Amazon. I can also be found on Twitter and Instagram at Richard Pryor Jr. And on Facebook, I have the Richard Pryor Jr. fan page, or I have my personal page that I actually am on it, talking with people and all those things under Richard Pryor Jr.
Well, I think that's perfect. And so your website, too, Inner Pryor Life, that's where all the links are and everything, correct?
Yes, Inner Pryor Life, everything's there, listed there, yes.
Yeah, and before I let you go, I want to ask you a couple of fun questions just so people get to know a little bit more about you. Is that okay?
Okay. Yes.
All right. So I think first one, kind of basic. If you could have dinner with anybody, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Ooh. The first thing that comes to my mind would be my mother. And it would be to ask her, what is heaven really like? Two would be Barack Obama, because I just think he's cool and intelligent. I think those would be the two right there.
Yeah, no. I think that'd be awesome, and to ask your mom about heaven and everything. What a special and deep thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I asked you a little bit too. What advice do you have? But what's the best piece of advice you've actually ever been given?
From my dad, and it was two things. One from my mother was, don't be afraid to use your name, who you are, because that is who you are. Yeah. And my dad was, whatever I do, whatever I put my mind to, be the best at it, regardless of what it is. Be the best of it you can be.
Yeah.
And I think that's advice I take with what I do now. Put into my heart, when I'm on stage, I leave my heart there. I leave everything there on the floor because I give my best that I can give. Yeah,
that's great. And also, if you could redo any movie and you could make yourself the lead, what movie would you redo and who would your co-star be?
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, that's a really good one.
Thank you.
I think I would love to. There was a movie that was done by Sally Field years ago called Sybil.
Yes.
And where she had multiple personalities.
Yes.
I would love to play that character.
Wow.
If I could play that character, because there's so many facets of it. There's so many dimensions to that character, because you're playing different roles, different personalities. And then having Sally Field play the psychiatrist. There was Joanne Woodward, but she played the psychiatrist, and I would play the patient.
I think that'd be awesome. Yeah. That'd be cool. Yeah. That'd be quite a twist. I like that a lot. A lot. And this one, it's kind of difficult. A lot of people can't answer it, so if you can't, it's fine. But what is the best no you've ever been given?
The best what?
No you've ever been given.
The best no, like N-O?
Yeah.
I think it would be when I was in a rehab center and I was getting ready to get out of rehab, and you have to do a follow-up plan, and you have to say, where you're going to go to meetings, and are you going to see a doctor when you get out, as far as therapy and all that. And I remember having a therapist, and I actually said I was going to see this therapist, and the nurses there told me no. And I was like wondering why, and couldn't figure it out until I got out of rehab. I went back a couple weeks later to visit some friends, and I walked down the hall, and my therapist is a patient there in the drug rehab on the phone.
Oh, wow.
So that would be my no.
That's a good one. Yeah, I had to say, I hardly have had anyone be able to answer that, but that's a good one. Definitely.
That's an awesome question, though.
Thanks. And then the last one is, what's one thing that nobody knows about you?
One thing that nobody knows about me. Trying to think, because I pretty much put myself out there just like my dad did. I'm an awesome cook. I know that's one thing a lot of people probably wouldn't know.
What's your favorite thing to cook?
I love cooking Italian food.
Okay, yeah.
I think that's one of my favorite things to cook is Italian food.
I'm Italian, so I love it.
Oh, cool.
It's perfect. Well, Richard, thank you so much for being on the show. You've been truly just a pleasure, and it's been an honor having you. I think you're amazing, and if you ever come to Vegas, I'd love to have you in person as well.
Definitely, without a doubt, Corey. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, thank you so much, and I hope you have an awesome day.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Thanks. And that was Richard Pryor Jr. What a great guy. He was so cool, so down to earth, and really, I think so many people can learn a lot from him because he is just phenomenal, and he's giving his whole heart and soul to everyone, and I think people can really learn from that. So thank you guys so much. Please keep up to date with him in pryorlife.com. That's where all the links are. Get his book as well, In a Pryor Life, because as you can tell, it's a great book, and I cannot wait to see the show because I know it's going to be a big hit. So thank you guys so much for watching, and remember, never give up, always believe, and you'll achieve. Thank you, and God bless.